Hey guys, as you may have noticed, I am not Sofian, I'm Alex from Alex on Autos, but you're here to take a look at this, the all-new Subaru Crosstrek Wilderness, the most rugged and capable Crosstrek ever built, and arguably the most rugged and capable entry in this segment, with more ground clearance than you'll find in Bronco Sport or Jeep's Compass. Remember, of course, that the much more expensive Cherokee has now rolled off into the sunset, leaving this really standing alone as one of the most affordable and most capable entries in this segment. Obviously, the first thing you'll notice is the family resemblance with the rest of the Wilderness product line, with the golf ball-like texture on the added cladding up front, but we have the latest interpretation of the Subaru grille up here. It has been changed from the regular Crosstrek model. We get gold accents for the recovery points, both front, rear, and of course, the critical mounting points on the roof rails as well. We get the same sort of hexagonal fog lights there and multi-module arrays that we find in other Wilderness products, and the same LED headlights you find in the rest of the Crosstrek lineup. I really like the fact that the recovery points are right here on the front bumper rather than tucked up underneath the vehicle like you find in the Pilot Trail Sport. That's really inconvenient to use if you're on a trail, especially if you're stuck in the mud, stuck in the snow, something like that. You have to root around underneath the vehicle. So these are a much more convenient place to locate them. Coming around the side, we have more of that black body cladding with the same sort of golf ball-like texture. We have Geolander all-terrain tires, standard on the Wilderness trim. This is the same sort of tire we find in the rest of the Wilderness product line, but we get unique wheels that I really like the look of, but I kind of wish they were silver. I'm not the biggest fan of black wheels. Let us know what you think about that down there. The Wilderness doesn't bring us any added roof capacity, but that's not a problem because the regular Crosstrek already has quite a lot, but we do get the gold accents on these standard roof rails. This is good for 700 pounds of static loading, so roof tent for you and a friend and your Labradors, etc. The gold accents are really distinctive. Let me know what you think about that. Now, if you want to put a roof carrier on top, the rating for that while the vehicle is in motion is just under 180 pounds. So 700 pounds of tent, just under 180 pounds of stuff in your favorite cargo box. I'm really interested to try the Wilderness model of this out on a trail because this has some of the best approach, breakover, and departure angles in the Subaru lineup. The approach angle is a little bit better in the Forester Wilderness. Breakover angles are pretty similar between this and that model, but the departure angle is definitely better because this has a much shorter distance between the rear axle and the back of the vehicle. And you can see the modification to the rear bumper here from this angle. They've really scalloped this section out so that way if there's a rock that you're going over, that rock's not going to bump the bumper right there, and they've really tidied things up across the rear. We of course have those all-terrain tires I mentioned earlier. Then we have 9.3 inches of ground clearance, a decent bump over the regular Crosstrek model, which already essentially tied with the Bronco Sport for being best in segment. Bronco Sport has about 0.2 of an inch extra clearance. This goes all the way up to 9.3 inches. As we see in the rest of the Wilderness lineup, it wasn't just a simple lift. Subaru re-engineered the springs, the dampers, and the tuning of the suspension, not just for the added ride height, but also for the more rugged off-road mission of the Wilderness. And the Wilderness package also includes a cargo tray that is pretty deep. You can see it's about 1 inch deep, so it'll really hold a lot of snow or slush there. Let's take a look under the load floor and see what we've got under there. A temporary spare tire rather than a full size. I suspect you would be able to fit a full-size spare in there, but obviously it's going to take up a little bit of the cargo area. Now it's time to take a look inside. As you approach the driver's side, you'll notice we have the Crosstrek logo right there in orange, or I should say gold. This particular model has the option package that will include things like the power driver's seat, also a moonroof up there. It's not a panoramic design, it's a pretty standard sized moonroof. As we see in other Wilderness models, we have the logo embossed on the front headrests, gold accents, the golf ball-like texture on the sides, and the seat face right there. This is not leather, this is an imitation leather product, so it might be a little bit more durable than regular leather. We get lots of soft touch materials on the front doors, and what looks like a tri-tone color scheme. Now this is a very early prototype, so these plastics might be slightly different toned by the time you actually get this on the dealer lots. This trim section right here in the middle is sort of an imitation carbon fiber, and that continues on the dashboard where we find that same sort of two-tone color scheme going on here. We have an upper section of the dashboard that's an injection molded section that's a little bit squishy. We then have a hard plastic midsection with some texture, it has kind of a hex pattern on there. We then have that carbon fiber-like thing, big bin-style glove compartment below, and then the same huge LCD infotainment system we find in the rest of the Subaru lineup. As with the rest of the Subaru lineup, this is going to support smartphone integration. We then have climate control buttons that are on the touchscreen as well as on the side, so a combination of physical and touch controls there. Very similar center console to what Sofian has seen earlier with some orange accent stitching right there on the shifter. Toggle switches for the heated front seats, 2 big cup holders, padded armrest, yet more orange stitching there. That opens to reveal a pretty decently sized storage compartment. The gold accents continue on the analog instrument cluster. And on the bottom of the 3-spoke steering wheel, you find paddle shifters on the back. As with the rest of the Wilderness lineup, we have Wilderness floor mats. These are a really nice touch because they're definitely going to keep the interior cleaner than carpet floor mats. In the back, the changes are mainly the upholstery and the gold accent stitching, so the same sort of upholstery we find up front, but we don't have the embossed logo on the headrest. If you're looking to get your hands on the latest Wilderness model, these are going to be on dealer lots this fall. So now's the time to start getting on that really long wait list that you know is going to start building at your local Subaru dealer. Be prepared to pay a bit more than the other flavors of Crosstrek. This is going to start at $31,995, and there's basically just one big option available, $2,270 for the package that's going to include the power driver's seat, the optional moonroof, and the upgraded audio system. That's certainly an option that I would check if I were interested in a Crosstrek. It is going to make this more expensive than any other flavor of Subaru's smallest crossover, but it's still a really good deal compared to really anything else in this segment. Something like the new Corolla Cross Hybrid is definitely going to be more expensive than this in its top-end trim. It is going to be more fuel efficient. It will get you actually up to about 50 miles per gallon if you treat it nicely. But let's just say off-road capability, it's not going to hold a candle to this at all. Now, speaking of the options that will hold a candle to this, we of course have the Jeep Compass and we have the Bronco Sport. The Bronco Sport is a really interesting option because it has Ford's torque vectoring rear axle that does give it a mechanical limited slip functionality, but it doesn't have quite as much ground clearance as this. And it's going to be a lot more expensive. Even though there is a reasonable amount of markup going on at some Subaru dealers with the Crosstrek, actual transaction prices are certainly going to be higher on that Bronco Sport. I do like the look of the Bronco Sport. It is definitely more SUV-like, more boxy, etc., but there are certain advantages to the Crosstrek's format, the biggest of which is the roof load height. Because this is, essentially an Impreza wagon that has been lifted, or an Impreza hatchback, however you want to look at it, the roof, even though we have 9.3 inches of ground clearance, is below my shoulders. And that means that if you're trying to load a bicycle or a roof tent or a kayak or a surfboard or whatever it is you're doing for your outdoor sports, it's going to be a lot easier to get them on the roof of this, especially if you're shorter than I am, than in anything that is bigger and boxier. And that's one of the reasons that the Outback has been such a sales success for Subaru, and this is exactly that same formula applied to a slightly smaller vehicle. And speaking of some of those outdoor activities, it's worth noting that because the Crosstrek is on the long side for this segment, and because of its relationship with the Impreza, interior volume is also arranged a little bit differently. Those longer IKEA items are going to definitely fit easily in here, and you wouldn't be able to fit them in some of the smaller and boxier options from the back of the hatch all the way up to the dashboard. So if you do need to put longer items like those longer surfboards inside the vehicle, or skis or things like that, it's much more likely to fit in the Crosstrek than those other alternatives. Let us know what you think about the Crosstrek down there in the comment section below. And of course, again, stay tuned because Sofian's going to be driving one of these really soon, and let's wait and see what he has to say about it. But I'm really interested to see what the off-road activities are like that Subaru has planned around the new Crosstrek, because with the aggressive angles that they've decided to go for with this vehicle, it should be a really interesting option. See all of you later.